So it's pretty cold and rainy out, so we're gonna work on the two front seats. I mean, this is the driver. It's considerably in the worst shape. Passenger's not so bad, just sun faded a bit. Even then you can't tell with the lighting I've got. But we've got these seats. I was also able to find the correct grille for the vehicle. Sneak peek. So we're gonna put these seats under those. I like the pattern on these better. Then this has got like the, I don't know, it's like a vinyl. As I drop it and break it, it's like a vinyl. They just sit, the handle, or like, they sit awfully low, I don't know. Actually, I think the seat needs to like go back. So, yeah, we picked these up a while ago. So we're gonna swap them onto those. And then while I got the driver apart, I'm gonna look at that motor. So I don't know, I'm gonna start taking them apart. That was a struggle. About halfway through I started tightening that bolt back up because I don't know how to do left or right. I don't know. Maybe that's got something to do with why the motor doesn't work so well. Holy crap. That's a little rough, if you ask me. So I'm gonna pull this panel off. I'm gonna pull that apart and just start cleaning it, I think. Wow. But yeah, it's just four bolts to get the top of the seat off the lower part. It's pretty easy, actually. And then that part of the harness goes down to the seat belt. Let's see if we can't get this out of the way, and then I don't have to pull it off yet, and I can work on this. That's out of the way. Because we do need this to retain the power seats. Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's rough. Yeesh. Yeah, so what does it got? Yeah, 2 pins for each button. So what is that? Up and down, up and down, up and down, I assume. The way that works. Yeah, I'm gonna look at that a little more. Alright, so we got our new seats back together. Went a little more in depth than I thought I was going to go. Notice the color difference. There's our old seats, as you can see. These ones are much nicer. Also like the fabric pattern on these a lot better. And the fact that these are like that fox leather on the handlebars. Oh, what are handlebars? Armrests. That's a gross like fabric. And then this is like that fox leather stuff all the way around. Easier to clean. I think it looks nicer. And there's our power seat, which does work now completely. I fixed that switch. Too bad that I had to reuse this sunburned plastic piece. I think they make a chemical that should bring the color back on that. Maybe. Otherwise, I mean, I gotta find the switch anyway, so if I find the switch, I'll just take the panel. If the panel is in fact blue. But the seat bottoms were actually quite rusty on the bottom, and I mean, that's pretty normal, that happens. So I went down to O'Reilly's and I got us a can of Chrysler, like a Chrysler blue. It was a darker blue, but I figured that it would be, I mean, it's a blue. The van's all kinds of different blues everywhere. I figured the color difference here would look cool anyway. And I think it turned out great. And I painted the both the seat belt latches that color, mainly because over here on the driver's, I had to replace it, and the only one I could find was red. So I painted that blue, and I painted them both blue, and obviously I taped off the button and everything. Passenger seat was pretty plug and play. There was some crap I had to do with the seat belt. There's like a little metal tab that keeps it from like sliding everywhere. I had to re-rivet it for some reason. Like the rivet didn't line up with the seat after I took it apart. I don't know. There was something weird there. In fact, I don't even think they stuck up. Like they were stuck down anyway. So I think that would have been messed with. So I fixed it. Same thing with the driver's side. I had to do some work to make it, because this one's supposed to, like, it's got a little bit of swivel, like to there and then down to here. So this one has some play and movement, like whatever. And I think that's because of it's got a power seat. This one's stuck in one spot so it doesn't move. But yeah, I had the power seat assembly all apart. I greased it up. I used like brake grease, like that purple brake lubricant. Anyway, it worked fine. Now the seat moves back and forth, and under load too. I took 2 wires, put them into the terminals under here, and put it on my jump box, and I just kind of sat on it and moved it around. Yeah, but they're pretty good. The driver's seat, I had to, because this seat was out of an 87 and it was a manual seat, I had to, if I can find, is this the right one? So there's this, see that X bar going across here for like a brace? It is actually, or the one on that seat off the 87 was welded on here. And so I had to like punch this, because this bracket has to go away for the power seat assembly. And so I had to drill out the welds here. I think I punched them out, broke them, get this piece out of the way. Otherwise it bolted right in. Passenger seat bolted right up. And then I had to take, this handle is off the original passenger seat, because the handle that came with this seat was all tore up. So I put that one on there, and that's good to go. Other than that, yeah, I mean, it went pretty well. Seats are comfortable. Oliver is enjoying the smell of the old seats, I guess. Yeah, those ones are beat. I think these ones came out of a van, the blue van, my first video actually. I took them out of that van. I think these only had 134,000 miles of sitting done to them, and they're pretty comfortable. And I'm sure that's the bunch of trim and stuff sitting down here. And this is the back seat out of that van, or the mid-row seat. This one is virtually brand new, never been sat in. So that'll go in and it'll look great, along with those blue floor mats. Yeah, I think that turned out great. And I like the blue, actually. I wasn't sure, that was a gamble. But I like the color difference, contrast, if you will. Bye-bye. Those will actually probably sit in the storage locker until I find the opportunity to dispose of them. Looking at the passenger front headlight harness. I might have looked at this before, but I didn't look at it that closely. Look at it. You guys think that's factory? Because I don't. And exposed wires all in here. I mean, that could be a problem, I would say. And I'm going to pull this harness all the way back through up into the engine bay right here, and I'm going to look at the whole thing real close. Kind of separate all those wires out and maybe hook up some power to it and just see what it does with all the wires apart. here's that noisy radiator fan. And the reason it's noisy is you can move the whole shaft, like the fan blade shaft on the motor, like a 1/4 inch. If you can trig it in here and do it. Trying. There we go. Maybe. I gotta be able to pull on the fan blade. Yeah, I would say that might not be good. I'll compare it to the other one, but something else I just found. That wire just kind of broke. So I did that, which would lead me to believe that was cracked already. Huh. That might be a problem. We're just working my way down here. I don't know if that's a power or ground, I guess. Based on it having a white stripe, that might be power to the rad fan. Alright, so I got the whole top harness over here all tore apart. So far it looks good. I took this all apart, looked at everything behind here, cleaned this up, I've retaped it. I've been down at the transmission. What is that? It's not the valve body, but it's just solenoid sort of looking thing. Anyway, regulates fluid pressure. I opened that connector up. It was a little dirty, so I blew it all out, cleaned it up, and put some dielectric grease on it. That connector looks good over here. So the only problems I found is that one wire right there, and then that left headlight harness. Everything else looks good so far. I got to do the lower part of this harness over here, and then I got to look down here in the lower harness there, and then I got to look down at this little part here, because we replaced these harnesses right here going to the engine because the other ones were burned here. So we know that those are good. That's not an issue. Shouldn't be. But I didn't look on the connector side and see if anything up in here was fried, which it could be, so we gotta pull that apart. Yeah, other than that, we're making progress, I guess. And then I'm rewrapping everything with new tape and refresh everything, so, because like this tape is disintegrating. This stuff disintegrates right at this point. Like this, it's like a gaff tape sort of stuff. This stuff, besides right here where it was covered by other tape, it's all just dry and just crumbles apart. Like this whole thing was wrapped in that. It's all gone. All of it just fell apart. Alright guys, so a lot of my leak here in the front is coming from this windshield. Now I just pulled the seam out of this, and I'm 100% certain they put a windshield in it at least once. But this is more solid than I thought. I mean, it's got a bunch of surface rust, but I don't know if they got the windshield off center, if it was a cheap windshield or what, but they bonded the living piss out of this seam here. And here's the fun part. So, oh, it's gonna be a pain in the ass to get this windshield out so I can come up here and clean this before the glass guy gets here. I can do that on both sides. It's even worse on the passenger side, which is where the leak is, the active leak. So I should be able to get this windshield out. And as you can see, it's cracked, so it needs to be replaced anyway. It's cracked up here. I can get this out of here and I can grind this all down, you know, and prep it. And then it's ready to go when the glass guy gets here, and he can reseal that, put a new seam on it, no problem. So I'm gonna get this front cowling off, get the wiper arms off, and mostly I'm doing this because I need a break from looking at that wire harness, which seems to all be fine, which is not a good thing necessarily. Oh. It appears that had been off before, and there's no threads on that. That's good, because I broke the antenna anyway on the inside. So now I don't have to splice it, I'll just get a new one. Maybe. I mean, it's on there by like 2/3. That'll like wiggle off, and that'll disappear, it'll be gone. Yeah, I'm gonna get this cowling off, which is once we get the wipers off, it's just a couple of Phillips screws and this whole thing will come up. Get down here at the bottom of the windshield and pull it up. And I think I literally think I'm gonna be able to push it out with my hands. That's gonna be funny. That's hilarious, actually. Anyway, this is why it's leaking, which this is my worry right here. Not so much here. That right there that's pretty. Might need to put a patch there of some sort, or yeah. I don't like that. That's not good right there. It's fixable easily. You can put a piece of plate here. You could put something right over it and just seam seal it and put a bead on it or something. Easily fixable. How nice you can get it to look's another story. Depends what you do. Bondo. It'll look a little thick on one side. Whatever. That needs to be addressed. Guys, welcome to Minnesota. This wouldn't have been like this if this windshield hadn't leaked. That's all. This is 100% from this windshield leaking. Which is why we're gonna fix it before, like, it's still solid. I mean, it's still there, so it's not too late yet. As long as I can get in here and I can treat that. What do you suppose the purpose of that is? I found that under the factory wrapping. Solid. Rusty needs to be cleaned up, that's for sure. Well, we have her in a temporary state of running. I was just gonna say we did make progress in that when I turn the blinkers on, the gauges don't go all funky anymore, like the oil gauge. I just walked away and I came back, and now that oil gauge is being funny again. It was not doing that the entire 10 minutes it's been running. Funny. Yeah, it's starting to act up again. Love to see it. Anyway, as far as I'm aware, still no headlights, no running lights. Hi, Coco. Guys, I found it. Look at this. So, I was going back to, I took my test light here. I actually started doing real diagnosis instead of looking over everything, which I kind of wanted to do this anyway because of how tore up it was. So I'm gonna re-spool everything properly. But I went back to the headlight harness and I plugged my test light into the main power, which is a red-white, into the headlight harness. No power. That wire comes directly out to here. I was able to trace it with the wire all tore apart. It comes out through this panel and it comes into here. And I'm like, oh, fusible link. So maybe the link's bad. So I stick my needle through here and I'm like, no power. Oh, that's weird. So I come down to here and I pop into there. This was already, believe it or not, that was already broke. So that's got to get taped. I popped in here, power. I poked one of these other wires, power. As soon as so then I'm like, well, shit. So I took my knife and I started cutting this. As soon as I did this, all of a sudden I saw smoke and all of a sudden the lights came on. And pulling this back further, this is our wire for our headlights right here. That's our headlight power. Completely cinched off. I can't believe that. Look at this shit. I'm surprised anything was working that was hooked to this. Wow. All right, now, disclaimer. If I'd have done that from the beginning, really, if I'd have figured, oh, hey, here's the hot wire, and I kind of looked back here, I'd have probably found that in 5-10 minutes, right? But, not that good at electrical, that's for darn sure. I'm not that good, guys. So, really, this is a good trial by fire for me. Honestly, a real good learning experience for me. which is what I love to, you know, it's kind of how I know how to do all this, if anything. Like, any of this is really, it's all trial by fire. Just kind of do it. So, look at that. That orange one's completely broke off. That one's broke off. So what it is it's not that it was a ground short that we were seeing with the gauges all going funny. It was probably a power draw. And so we have a really high resistance in here for what's left. You know, like, look at that. 3 wires are completely snapped off. Jeez. Yeah, that's coming right off it's the hot right off the, you know, battery. And that's our hot off the battery is that corroded. So, look at that. And so our one that had good connection is that green, which I think that green's the main power for the fuse panel. So that's probably the only reason it ran. That or this red, one of these two. Obviously one of these two is main power. Wow. Now, how do I splice this back together in a somewhat okay fashion? That's our next problem. Do I get some, like, sort of panel? You know, put a panel on the side here? Or... low-key, that's not a terrible idea. But yeah, what's the pink one? What do you think the pink one does? Because that pink one's completely disconnected. How about this orange one? This orange one goes into a white, which goes down into a gray, which goes up and into here, which then goes into one of these two relays. Who the fuck knows what that does? I don't. But, at the very least, what do we put these into? A big crimp of some sort, and then crimp that into the other ones here, and then like a big shrink wrap, like it was. But apparently this shrink wrap wasn't sealed properly. It should have been taped all the way around on both sides, and it let moisture in or something. Corroded real bad. Wow. All right, well, I'm gonna start the process of repairing that mess, verifying everything works, and then I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna clean and rewrap this whole harness. I can wrap harnesses. I can do wire management, okay. Troubleshooting this stuff is, now I could say I'm slightly better at it, and that I was able to trace back to where I had power and where I didn't have power, and boom, there it's right there. That's the whole thing, I guess. Oh, I'm so excited, guys, you wouldn't believe it. I about had it with this vehicle. Now my, what do you want to say? My enthusiasm, my motivation to work on it has been refreshed. See how bad this was? That was just terrible. I mean, it's solid. So I gotta come through, I gotta grind that down to metal. Probably rust converted anyway, and then prime it, and then put a layer of paint. And then my glass guy should have the window by then, and we should be able to get a new window installed, and then stop all of the leakage into the cab here. And then we'll be able to come in and grind that floor out and clean that up. And at that point, we get those two things in, then I'll feel comfortable putting the headliner in so that it's safe and won't get down. I mean, what I'll do is I'll run a hose over this, verify. I think we got a small leak back there coming down the C-pillar. We got lights. I noticed this hood had a hood light attached to it, and the wire disappeared under this the heat shield. I borrowed the bulb out of my 93, and I got it wired into my nice new junction, as you can see. Verify that this works, and it does. And so how they work is somewhere in here there's like a check ball or something that when you tilt the hood down, it rolls in, and then the light shuts off. And then when you tilt it up, obviously it comes on. At least I figured that out today, looking at the 93. Because I'm like, well, there's no button like on the sides or whatever, you know, nothing to detect it. And so I kind of wiggled it down until it went off, and then I kind of shook it, and I watched it go on and off when I shook the hood. So there's some kind of like check ball or whatever. Anyway, this works. So I got to wire this in properly when I redo this. what I'll probably do is I'll put like what, like a 5 amp fuse or whatever. I don't know, whatever this takes, 5-10 amp, something like that. And I'll probably just wire a fuse in here, and then I'll wire it into this splice here when I get this all done properly. However I decide to do that, I haven't figured it out quite yet, what exactly I want to do. What's the nicest way that that's never gonna happen again? But otherwise, it's running. It's got a kind of surginess to it, almost like it's got an evap leak or something, or a vacuum leak. Yeah, it's hunting for an idle. But hey, we'll cross that road later. We are riding in style though. I got one bolt back in the steering wheel, and I got the old seat out of my 05 I had in the storage shed over there. And I bolted that in with 2 bolts. That way because it's gonna rain the rest of this week, and naturally I pulled the windshield off. It leaked anyway. I wanted to get this off because I want to be able to get this cleaned up before the glass guy comes. I'll be able to roll it over into my shed here or drive it. It will drive under its own power. Should drive under its own power anyway. What I'm waiting on here is I'm waiting for it to heat up. I got the new rad fan that I got from the scrapyard put in here. I want to make sure this comes on. But while I'm doing that, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap this grill before I put the bezels back on for the lights. So that's what we're like right now. We'll see how she looks with that Dodge grill on there. Yeah, how's that? Oh my. I am so happy with that. I gotta put a shim behind the grill on this corner on this side, up here and down here where they screw in, because it's pushed in just a little bit from that headlight bezel, but this side lines up pretty dang sweet. Oh yeah, that looks great. Look at that. She's wearing her right grill this time now, finally. Probably since 2000, probably since it was in a wreck. Note these lights don't work because I don't have the harness hooked up, because that harness needs to be re-spliced together, if you will, properly, not with those stupid wire nuts. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Now we just got to figure out the windshield. Look at that. And we got headlights. Sweet. Yeah, that grill looks real nice on there. Well, she's safe in the garage, if you want to call it that. So I got an old headliner sitting over the windshield as a deterrent, but you know, water ain't gonna get on it anyway. And then I got my rubber plate backing, like it's like a rubber piece you put over the plate. Anyway, it keeps it from grinding on here and, like, you know, rubbing in here and rubbing through the paint and then rusting. And it keeps the screws all nice and dry. And the border looks nice. Anyway, I got that piece on. I think you get like a 2-pack for like $8 on Amazon. So yeah, that looks pretty good too. Anyway, it's gonna rain the rest of the week, so I think the only thing I'll be working on for this vehicle is I'll probably take the HVAC box apart, since I got it inside, and clean that up. And then I will probably take the 2 clusters I've got and put the nice parts into the one, because my cluster, you know, the glass is all scuffed and damaged. The other cluster I've got's got nice, the assembly's nice. And we'll mix and match and make sure all of our bulbs work, because I had a burned out high beam like indicator bulb. So I'll make 1 cluster out of 2, make sure I get my odometer into the right cluster, because I want to maintain the correct mileage. Yeah, so, oh yeah, I got the taillights back on too. And then I did take it down the road without a windshield on it, naturally. Just make sure she still shifted through all the gears, and it did. It drove great. So, almost to the point we can start putting it back together. Well, I mean, I kind of already am putting it back together, I guess. It looks like a vehicle again with the taillights on it. But I have to clean up those window channels. I have to, like, grind that down to metal real good. And then I gotta put some rust converter on it, and then prime it, and then put a layer of some sort of paint. I'll probably put like a black, and then I will let the glass guy do his thing on that front windshield with it'll get new rubber and everything, and then I'm gonna have him try take this back windshield out without breaking it and put a new rubber on that. If he breaks it, I'll deal with it then, but he's pretty good. He won't break this. I doubt he will anyway, but we'll see. And no, it needs to be resealed whether I like it or not, so it's gotta come out. But we'll get that done too. And then I'll be able to put the wiper motor back in with the new grommet. And then this will all be sealed up, that'll be sealed up, and then I'll probably take a garden hose to it and just rain test it, like soak everything and just make sure no water's getting in anywhere. And once I verify that, then I think I'll put the headliner in, get that all buttoned up, and then I can put the dash back together. And then once the dash is together, we'll I think before I do the dash, I want to deal with the floor up front there, and I'll do that before I do the headliner, because I want to grind all that up and don't want it to stick to the headliner. That would be not good. So yeah, we got to do the floors first. Once we do the floors, we can do the headliner, we can do the dash, and then we can put the carpet in. And once the carpet's in, we can put all the rest of the trim in. And then we're looking like a vehicle again that can be used, at least for the time being. Drive a little bit, work its quirks out. And then we'll go into making it look pretty, aka still got to look for this bumper, come in and like bondo these dents up, or like I could probably try pull that just a little bit, maybe. I don't know if I could, I'll probably have to weld like a rod to it and pull it out. The way this is dented out, my dent kit probably wouldn't. This is too thick of a metal. Or I could come in from the backside. Maybe I can what I could do is, even if I can't through on the inner channel, I could drill a hole through it so I could push it through and maybe pop it out close and then filler it. Yeah. But that's long term. That's long term. Let's get it moving now. Functional and drivable long distance properly. So yeah, there's an update. I don't know when you'll see this. I think it's April 18th now. So this will probably come out in May at some point. Alright, so it's chilly out today. So we're gonna attempt to make one cluster out of these two. Mostly it's just gonna be putting my Speedo into here and then checking all the bulbs and putting the nicest bulbs into this one and this piece and the harness. We had this cluster, I had this in and out of the vehicle a few times, so I know it works. Alright, so first thing you want to do is remove your harness, which in this case on the 90, at least the 90s I've got, it's just two plugs that just pull off, and you can't get them backwards putting them back on because they're slotted differently. And then over here, if you have the additional instrument panel lighting, there's a couple screws on the back here, 3 of them, and that will pull that off. And then what we want to do is we want to pull all, what is this? I got 7 off so far, screws off the board here. And we'll see if she pulls up here. Might need to pull a few. I think I might need to pull the light bulbs, honestly. Or is there? Yeah, I might need to pull the bulbs. Nope. Nope, look at that. There it goes. Wiggle it slowly back and forth on this side because we need to tip it this way because of this guy right here. Yeah, look at that. Just wiggle it back and forth very gently. And it'll, looks like it'll slide out. Like that. And then we will kind of get my Windex out of the way, set it down like that. What does that do for us here? Really, that doesn't do anything to get at the Speedo. But hey, that's how you remove the board. Bunch of cool pegs and stuff for all of the gauges, I suppose. I bet we do gotta disassemble it from the front. I was hoping we wouldn't, but I'm wrong. Okay, we'll come back to that. Okay, so the only thing holding that guy in is just the bulbs. I thought it was maybe glued down or something. So the bulbs just hold that in. So you just pull those bulbs out and your whole board comes out and you can kind of set him out of the way. I would say that bulb isn't doing us anything. That one's probably good. Okay, so now we can handle this part of the cluster. So let's flip it back over here. And I'd already, the funny part is, I took the glass out, or the glass out of the front. And I'm like, well, maybe I don't have to do that, so I'll put the glass back in. But it appears that we had to take that off anyway, so take the glass off was just a couple of these clips right here all the way around. They just kind of pull off. I'm gonna try leave the glass in and just take the front assembly off. We'll just try that first. That's actually probably it. So we take the assembly off, pulls the bezel out, and then we can get at the actual gauges. Okay, so I was right. So it's just 3 of these 7mm or 6 of these 7mm screws, 3 on the bottom, 3 on the top. And then it looks like it's going to be 1, 2, 3 to pull our speedo and odometer out to put ours into it. So let's try that real quick. Okay. And those are the same as the rest of the screws. They're all the same. I don't know why the tack defaults to that for some reason. Like, why don't you just default to 0? That would be cool. Now it doesn't move at all. Maybe I broke it. Great. Oh, there it goes. It moves. Actually, I didn't confirm if the tack... I mean, I confirmed that the tack moved on this, but the electrical was so messed up that it wasn't reading properly when I had this cluster in. So I guess I don't know if the tack is correct, per se. So maybe we'll put our tack back in it, too. And also what sucks here is all of these needles used to be orange. They've all been sunburned out. But... oh, look at that. Now if we look down here, what do we got? 739,556. That's cool. I guess if you ever want to know what the inside of a cluster here looks like. Alright, I got my odometer and speedometer into the new cluster. So, there you go. It's pretty simple swap, I guess, to swap to a new cluster. And really, the problem with mine is my assembly is all scuffed here. Like, it's all dirty and dusty and scratched, and it just doesn't look that nice. So really, what you could do is you could just leave all your gauges, if they work, and you could just take the cover piece and swap that. But I was already this far, and these gauges have a little more orange to them than mine do, or did. We're gonna swap anyway, and we'll revisit if we have issues with gauges. And so naturally, I've got a spare set confirmed working, and we'll regain the gear selector, because this one's got broken string on it. Well, this was today's first project, is getting this guy off. And we got it off. As you can see, it wasn't muffling very much. There's our new one for scale. Got the pipe cut off here, got the pipe crudely cut off there. So now, because I don't have the welder out, and frankly I'm not that good at welding yet, we're going to do the old muffler clamps and exhaust tape, and quick, easy. How about that? And it lasts at least a couple years. So that's what we're gonna do. And it will be infinitely better than this, and that is a win. And you could always come back later and weld it if you want. But yeah, I mean, the pipe going back, everything's in great shape. The cat and going up there is in great shape. The donut's in great shape, so we're looking pretty good. All right, guys. So the exhaust tip looks pretty good, huh? We're under here test fitting everything. I got a jack holding that all up, and I got a tire with a chunk of pipe hold this side up. And that's not bracketed, but before, the old muffler was held up with this bar just laying on the pipe, kind of, you know, and then obviously in like the rubber bits. I didn't like that because this is gonna vibrate and do all kinds of crap. Now you could weld that to the pipe, and I thought about it and I was gonna do that actually, but the new muffler, which technically is for a 93, has this style bracket on it, and that bracket doesn't go far enough back to meet this mounting point. So I was digging around in the back, and I found these steel brackets that fit perfectly. Like, they couldn't have fit more perfect. Anyway, I got them bolted up into the factory mounting spots. And what I did is I took marker and I marked my pipes so I know exactly where I'm at here. So I know where to put this in when I clamp this all in and whatever. And then I lined up, so this bracket right here used to sit like vertical, like there's a hole here and it would bolt into right here. I got it turned sideways and I'm gonna through bolt it sideways into here. So I got this in place, and I put a marker dot here, and on the other side, take this muffler back down, and I'm gonna, well, I'll probably leave the muffler off. I'll take these, I'll unbolt these, and I'll put this on, or put these on the bench, and I'll drill a hole out here. So there's a hole down here, but that's not high enough, naturally. So, yeah, it's not bad. It looks pretty good for custom work there. And the most important part is it's got this rubber bit, so it's not gonna rattle around. And actually, I'm going to take the muffler back down because what I meant to do, over on that one right there, this aluminum's corroded. I got to take that 10 mil bolt off, and I got to put a bigger washer on it so it grabs this so this doesn't start rattling, because that's annoying. So, no, that's not bad. I'll bring it back when I get it all bolted up. All right, exhaust is up. So I guess let's start up here by the cat. So what I got under here is, naturally the muffler is slid over this pipe, and under this exhaust tape I've got some like liquid muffler joint sealer. So I put the joint sealer on the joint naturally, and then I cover it with muffler tape, and then we put a clamp on it. Now that's a lot of seal for no welding. Naturally welding is prettier, but it's a Caravan, guys. And back here, we've got, I think this is a 2-inch outer diameter and a 2-inch outer diameter, so we've got a 2-inch coupler here, and same thing, joint sealer, lots of muffler tape, and two 2-inch clamps. And that goes back to the original, and there's a hanger up there. Now, let's look at this beautiful, beautiful work right here. That turned out great. So originally this bar mounted directly up into this at this mounting point. I needed to shift it back to get this clamp to work with this setup. And so we use the longer muffler rubber mounty thingies, so we get just a little more travel, and we put that on the original bracket and mounted it to these two L brackets. And then I've got a through bolt here with a lock washer and a regular washer, and I was able to use 13mm hardware, which is the same size as everything else here, so still only need one size like wrench ratchet to do this whole thing. Except for, yeah, these are 13s too. These are 14s. The muffler clamps are 14s, so whatever. But I think all muffler clamps, at least all the ones I buy, are all 14 mil. So that's great, and it looks, that's passable for what I go for. Now let's hear how it sounds. Which we have to hook up our battery. We're still in this jankiness. I haven't gotten the wire harness put back together yet, which is the next task. Now that we got it nice and quiet, is to put all this back together so I can set this up properly. That was my muffler holder upper. So we've got no cluster, but everything that needs to run is hooked up. Need to take this ignition out, clean it, or switch it, because it gets stuck. There it goes. Oh my gosh, that's so nice. Look at that. Sounds like the rest of my vans now. Now I can actually listen to the motor. And it sounds great. Aha. Well, that's nice and quiet. Heck yeah. I even got the angle about right on the exhaust pipe coming out. As you can see, it goes up here, bounce around there, goes around. It's clear and everything. Like, we're not hitting anything when I do this. It is sturdy. It's solid. Look at that. That's a great job for me. I've done some jankier stuff there in the muffler business that's worked just fine. I'd call that almost quality. I would call that a quality DIY repair. So, yeah, and the only thing I had to buy was two 2-inch muffler clamps and the 2-inch adapter. That clamp came with the muffler, and it was just a cutoff wheel to get everything to set properly. Otherwise, it was, and those two brackets, which I had in the steel pile. Sweet. Yeah, that sounds good. Now I don't have to, yell around this thing. Yeah, sounds pretty good. All right.